Right, welcome back to the show. Now, Mijikenda elders in Likoni have said they will not back a woman to vie for the parliamentary seat in the next general poll. Addressing journalists a week ago, the elders said their custom does not allow them to support a woman to contest for the seat. Led by Rashid Doka, the over 2,000 elders who had attended the meeting in the constituency said women cannot be trusted to hold high posts as they do not handle challenges like their male counterparts. This comes at a time when Mombasa woman rep Mishimboko has declared interest in the seat. Well, it's interesting to note that Mishimboko is the very same who called for women to deny their husbands conjugal rights for the vote. And I'm wondering, ladies, could this be a backlash of sorts where they're saying women, we're in 2017, for heaven's sake, are we still saying that women cannot lead as well as men?
Now it all makes sense. I was wondering before, how does it benefit? Now I see how it benefits her. She is trying to pull a very, very smart move. I don't know if all the women should participate. I think we said that during the break, that if all the women deny their husbands and boyfriends and other people conjugal rights, then it will work. Otherwise, you are going to be left alone in that denial. But having said that, I think that really I don't want to tell a community how to, evolve their ideas about leadership. However, it is about time that they acknowledge that they have produced some exceptional women leaders already in other fields, and that they have produced exceptional minds, and that this is an opportunity for them to shine once more as a community, regardless of the gender. They should pick the best leader, not just because they have specific genitalia. That's what my feeling is.
Right. Yeah. And Wangari, is there a difference between a man leading and a woman leading, or is leadership just leadership?
I think it's just this thing of, I think, tradition, and you said it, the key word is evolve. Traditions evolve. Traditions are not static. So, even Mijikenda, in some instances, some of the Mijikenda tribes, they practice FGM. Because that's tradition, do you think that's something that we should continue? I think they really need to re-evaluate this kind of tradition thinking. But even more than that, as someone who's traveled and worked extensively in the coastal region, I've even gone in the interior, deep in Kilifi, in Kwale, around Mombasa. It's very notable. You see women heavily engaged in economic activity. They're farming, they're trading, they're involved in their family's childcare, social activities, health, education. So the average Mijikenda woman knows a lot about what they need in the county. So I think they should not discount them.
We had Mekatilili women.
Exactly. Yes. And actually, when you think about it, Mijikenda, they don't have a lot of heroes and legends. But the one that they do is Mekatilili, who was fighting against slave labor, over taxation.
Absolutely.
So, you think about it and you're like, well, where is this? What is this idea that Mijikenda women are not strong enough?
Or women in general.
And I think that, to me, I feel that they're really pushing back against heavy pressure. If you look at the sort of women political leaders, Zuleika Hassan especially, I really admire this particular nominated MP. She is amazing. In my view, she has really done something for women across the country and girls in schools when she had this bill passed where, girls in Muslim girls in school are not to be forced to remove their hijab. That was a very significant thing. It may not have gotten the attention that it should have, but it's a very significant thing, and coming from the Mijikenda. So maybe the men are feeling the pressure, and you're feeling like, you can't measure up.
Right.
It's okay. You can compete.
All right, let's move on now. And last week's arrival of the first batch of the standard gauge railway locomotives has done little to quell public debate on whether Kenya really got value for money. The jury is also still out there on the number of hours it will take to shuttle between Nairobi and Mombasa, with opinion divided on the maximum speed of both the passenger and freight trains. While Ethiopia's electric train attracted much fanfare, Kenya's diesel engine locomotives were welcomed last Monday with mockery, likening them to century-old trains. Kenya Railways Corporation has come to the defense of the construction of the standard gauge railway, stating that it is built based on the needs of the country, which is primarily is the moving of goods to and from the port of Mombasa. Are we getting value for our money is the question that we're asking tonight. And has the really, the kind of critique we've been seeing out there since the onset, since this first batch arrived, been fair really on this project, do you think?
Let me just tell you, Sharon, first of all, this thing about electricity on the railway, I'm not quite happy with that, because you can imagine getting a WhatsApp message from KPLC saying from 9 to 5 there's no electricity. So what happens with the SGR if you're doing
backup, complementary backup system?
I mean, Ethiopia is a different case. Ethiopia, they're investing heavily, and actually they have this big dam. I think it's going to.
But it costs less than our SGR is costing, and it's much more. It's superior in terms of technology.
We need to provide services within the context of our country.
Right.
Ethiopia's context is a little bit different because they have good, reliable electricity. I think we are
and
not
also
yet
the kind
there.
of work that the railway is meant to do, in the sense of what the corporation was saying, in that our railway is meant to more for the freight services than for passenger services, and that we transport more from the port of Mombasa than they do, in the sense that this then dictates the kind of type of the railway that will be constructed.
Exactly.
But what about the cost?
You know, okay,
If it's a simpler version.
Before we go into the cost, and because of course that has been very controversial, let's remember how Jubilee sold this concept. There was an electric train in that photo. There was. Yes. This is why Kenyans are like, what is this?
Compare and contrast.
Picture really is what everyone was waiting to see.
So, you know, and so we blame whoever was doing the graphics design at that time, and the editing, photo
They
editing.
oversold.
Yeah, you guys oversold your story. But I actually agree with Wangari on this. There is different purposes for the different railways and the systems. You have raised a very good question in terms of cost. If you now take into consideration the purpose of Ethiopia's railway system versus Kenya's, can we now estimate, is it more expensive? Is it costing us far too much compared to what is happening in Ethiopia, given their circumstances and their needs?
Right.
Is it really costing us too much compared to them? And I feel that we are comparing apples and oranges in this situation. I do understand that this, as the Railway Corporation has said, this particular railway is supposed to basically boost the sort of freight and cargo movement from Port of Mombasa all the way up to Uganda, if eventually. And this is supposed to heavy infrastructural development supposed to tide Kenya over for the next 20 to 30, 40, 50 years from now. You have to look at Kenya this way. This is a third world country. We want to move to middle income status. We have to invest.
Aren't we already in middle income status?
I mean, I don't feel it.
According to the government.
But even speaking to that, I mean, when you talk about when you compare Ethiopia and Kenya, first of all, we really have to look at what the costs went into.
Right.
Did we have to blast through rock?
Yes.
Did we have, in Ethiopia, are they flat roads? I mean, you really need to look at
compensations. I remember them talking about the
we
Kenyan
went through the park. What is
Right.
going on with that?
Well,
So, I mean, the
over and
costs are
beyond that
different.
is also the idea of mortgaging our very soul to the Chinese, because Chinese money, Chinese construction, Chinese reconditioned trains from the 70s, China run, at least for the first 10 years. As somebody else was saying on another station, it seems to stink of something beyond what we can see. And I think most of us can agree that it is overpriced, because we're talking about a simple, basic railway to transit freight and goods, and yet we've spent billions compared to people who actually have electric
50
speed
billion,
trains.
to be precise.
So I think
what we actually need as Kenyans, even right in the heat of this discussion, to get like a public audit of exactly what, you know, we speak about compensations of land, we speak about building bridges, in the sense that this railway, they say, had to really do pass by settlements more than the Ethiopian railway did. So as much as that is the case, if it is the case, then we'd need to see exactly what went into what, because then...
And also we have to think about how did we finance this? Did we have to borrow outright most of it? As opposed to Ethiopia, maybe Ethiopia already had equity put aside for this, maybe better planning. I'm not saying that Kenya isn't planning well, but you know, and like I said, the level at which we are, it takes a lot of heavy investment in infrastructure, and Kenya has to borrow. So those are some of the questions, I agree with you, Sharon, that we have to ask.
All right.
Right, now moving on now, as events have unfolded in the health and education sectors, members of the press have been criticized for either doing too much or too little in the brutal battle of truth versus objectivity. It is easy to point the finger at the fourth estate in times of upheaval, but just what is the role of the press beyond reporting the news? This is a question we must ask. Truth versus objectivity. Are we just reporting facts, or are we putting things into context? And then what wins out, ladies? Are we supposed to be on the side of authenticity and actual truth of the matter, as opposed to trying to stay objective? Now I'm talking about members of the press. Must we always be on that middle line? For example, if you support CORD or if you support Jubilee, must you always attempt to walk the middle line?
I think so, Julie. I think the press really needs to be quite as objective as they can be. But and to do this, they don't always have to be bland. They can also be a forum for debate, where you bring someone who is on extreme on one side and someone else who's extreme on the other, and let them argue it out and let the public decide on what side they fall. Right. The press is really under a lot of scrutiny, I think, the world over. There's this issue, I mean, it happened in the US where Trump called CNN fake news, and now CNN is fighting back. There is actually a lot of fake news in the social media sphere that's really bringing a lot of things that we took for granted to question. If we watch any TV station, a TV station or a newspaper is known to be pro this or pro that. So if I want to hear maybe the CORD or ODM view, I'll listen to this station, or this one, or if it's Jubilee, I want to listen to this station. So there's a lot of that kind of bias. And I think it's high time that the press did try to find that middle ground and find that objectivity to let the listener or reader make a decision on their own rather than to influence them with their own
And I think just speaking about objectivity and really the role of media and the place of media really has been changing with emerging trends in the media. And of course, I know we're almost out of time, but traditionally the role, in my opinion, of the media was to inform. But in the latest trends, we have various sources of information before anything is reported in prime time or in your newspapers. You already know what's happening. So then what becomes the role of the media in the face of various ways of getting information? There's
everybody's a journalist
agenda
these days,
setting and all that. So all that, I wish we had more time for debate on this, and maybe we'll take on it next week. But it's really changing, and of course it also brings to question what we saw being bashed in the media about what another media station had reported in the case of the health reporting about that woman who lost her baby while trying to seek healthcare. Maybe we'll talk more about that in our next show. We have to move on to the last story of today, and 2 days before the inauguration of President-elect Donald Trump, many are reflecting on the legacy of President Barack Obama's 8-year regime. He wanted to be a transformational president. He ended up being an inspirational one. The First Lady Michelle Obama has also been a force to reckon with. Tonight we discuss the most impactful strategies and moments of the Obama presidency.
I told you